Hi everybody, welcome. It's Kathy Syrett from the Confident Leader Journey of Vlog again, and we're still in the month of looking at interacting with others. And there's a lot of information out there about how introverts can exist and live in an extrovert world. But I thought, how about some tips for extroverts on how to interact effectively with introverts? Now, I'm using extrovert and introvert in the Jungian sense of the phrase, which is where an introvert is someone who genuinely gets energy from being by themselves, and an extrovert is someone who gets energy from being around others. And that leads to lots of consequences for behavior, work, performance, how people work and exist. Okay? And it's interesting to know that fundamentally, the work environment is set up for extroverts to be successful. Team meetings, lots of team activities, going out for dinners, socializing, building those bonds. Everything's about being with a people. And in general, the business world is not constructed to make life easy for introverts, and they have to create their own little world within that to be successful. As a leader, of course, we want to be able to manage extroverts and introverts effectively. But if you're an extrovert yourself, this can sometimes be quite challenging. And quite often, what are actually things that introverts require to be successful are seen as flaws, rather than just aspects of what makes them effective. If being in a team and being competitive helps an extrovert be effective, then what helps an introvert be effective? Maybe something different. And for this, I want to extend my gratitude to this book, The Introvert Advantage. Now, this book's actually aimed at introverts being successful in an extrovert world. But we can also take some things from this that will help extroverts create a style of leadership and an awareness that will help you get the most out of the introverts in your team as well as the extroverts. So, what we're going to look at today is 5 ways to interact effectively with introverts. Okay, ready? Here we go. 1, pacing. Okay, one of the characteristics of most introverts is that they have peaks and valleys of performance. And this is because they need to go away to recharge their batteries. So they'll perform really hard, they'll come across in the team, they'll be rah, 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 they'll be at the conference, they'll be up on stage, they'll be right in the mix with everybody. And then they'll need to go back to their hotel room and have 2 or 3 hours of quiet. Now, this can have an impact on performance. It means they'll perform really well in a team and then they will need thinking time. So being aware of allowing your introverts to pace themselves effectively means that they're going to be performing at a higher level, and it just shows a fundamental respect for how they work. Okay. 2, introverts manage themselves and their energy levels by identifying what the priorities are. So the clearer you as a leader can be on what the really important things are to achieve by certain deadlines, rather than giving a generic, well, everything's important, or we have to all give 100% all the time, doesn't really help. Because if you're an introvert and you need to manage your energy flow and work out when I can go away and do thinking time, when I can go and do actual performance time with teams, it's really important that I know what the priorities are so I can manage that properly. Okay. Now, interestingly, there are some cultures which are extrovert based versus introvert based. So one of the classic ones that was studied in research was Japan versus USA. And it was noticed that when USA teams and Japanese teams were given the same activity, such as building a raft across a river, there was a significant difference in how they approached it. The Japanese team would spend 80% of their time planning, 20% building and doing. The American team would spend 20% of the time planning, and then they'd be building, trying, building, trying, building, trying. Now, interestingly, generally, the Japanese approach was more effective and definitely better for team cohesion. Although, what actually turned out to be optimal was a blend of the two. But what that means is that instinct to plan and think before doing things is a vital one for effectiveness. And that's the natural strength of introverts. It's that thinking time, and they're balancing that with the interacting time. So that priorities in order to enable introverts to manage their time and their focus with a balance between interacting with others and recharging batteries is crucial. The third one is parameters. Having those boundaries. It's a common misconception that the only way to bond a team together is we have to live, eat, drink, and breathe together. Think about the activities you plan for your teams and your organizations. Are they all extrovert activities? Are you expecting the introverts in your team to constantly act like extroverts in order to be part of the team? Do you ever ask the extroverts to act like introverts? Okay. So I'll give you an example of this. We had a company that used to do lots of going out to dinners, going out to clubs, lots of really high level stuff, intense things, escape rooms, lots of activity where you're literally trapped in a room with other people. And they changed that slightly. And they did an event, I think it was at the Natural History Museum. They had a murder mystery. And they went in and teamed up and did a murder mystery there. And it was a 4-hour long process. You were in small groups. You went along and you learned from experts about how to read the forensics of a skeleton and all kinds of different things. And it was a very different feel to the evening. What was interesting was that even the extroverts said they really enjoyed it. So thinking about how you structure and put boundaries around the interactions you expect from your teams will enable you to get the most out of both the extroverts and the introverts in your teams. So I said there'd be 5. So those first 3 are the 3 Ps: pacing, priorities, and parameters. Understanding how to use those 3 things effectively for extroverts and introverts will enable you to get the best from your team. Okay. The last 2 are a bit more conceptual. And the last 2 are space and time. These are 2 things that generally in the workplace are not as available to introverts as they would like. Space can be something as space and time often go together. It's the space-time continuum. But I'll give you an example of this. I see so many trainers running training programs, and they go, ask a question, who's got an answer? First hand up, they're the one that do it. They've given no time for reflection. They've given no space for exploration. If, however, you go, I'm going to put a question up, I want you to think about it quietly for a minute or 2, then discuss in a group. If you do it that way, then you've given the space and time to the introverts in the group to reflect inside. What do they think about things? Then they'll join in the discussion. And it's a significantly different discussion if you give that personal reflection time first. Now, I did a session once where I needed people to reflect for about 5 minutes. So I said, right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes of reflection time. If you've jotted down your notes before the 5 minutes, go and take a comfort break. Get up, stretch your legs, walk around. Okay, and then we'll come back and discuss it. So think about both extroverts and introverts when you're doing these things. Having people write down their own thoughts and then brainstorm is known to increase the quality of the brainstorming. So giving that space and time is critical. Quite often in our businesses, we unconsciously or consciously reward the quick thinker, the instant response. Is that always the best one, though? Perhaps actually, instead of me telling you 5 ways to interact with introverts, what I'm really suggesting is 5 ways to adjust your business so that both extroverts and introverts can thrive there. I hope you found this vlog interesting. Check me out, www.confidentleaderjourney.com, or find me on Facebook at the Confident Leader Journey page. I look forward to hearing more ideas from you about what you'd like to hear in these vlogs. Okay, take care.